Welcome back everyone to another episode of Vegetarian Cooking with JJ. In this week's episode, I'm going to be making a very delicious vegan leek and baby spinach quiche with some sun-dried tomatoes thrown in the mix and tons of deliciousness and love. So without further ado, let's head over to the kitchen and get cooking! First of all, I'm adding 2 cups of flour to this bowl. I'm adding a half a teaspoon of Himalayan salt. You can use regular salt. And I have our earth balance I'm going to use, and I'm popping in a half a cup. Make sure it's cold. And I'm breaking up our earth balance and incorporating it into the flour with this fork. If you have a pastry cutter or other fancy equipment, feel free to use those. And I'm gradually adding our half a cup of ice cold water into our mixture. Once you transition over to working the dough with your hands, make sure you work with the dough quickly, and it's ideal if your hands are cold. You don't want to over-knead it. Also, you don't want to warm it up too much. We're going to wrap our dough up in saran wrap, pop it in the fridge, and let it chill for 30 minutes. I find it easier to use a bowl of water to wash the leeks. I'm flouring our surface here so we can roll out our chilled dough. We want our dough to be rolled out evenly for our pie crust. Here I have our greased pie dish, and I'm carefully placing our crust on top. Now I'm cutting off the extra dough here. Feel free to use it for a mini tart or a galette. You can crimp the edges of the crust to your liking. I'm just going around and crimping it with my fingers. You're going to want to make sure your oven is already preheated to 400. I'm blind baking our pie crust, so I laid down some parchment paper on top of the crust, evenly distributing some lentils on top, popping it in for 10 minutes. If your rack is lower down, it may need 15 minutes. Now this part is done, so we're pouring out the lentils, and I've poked some holes in our pie crust, and I'm going to pop it back in for an additional 8 minutes. Quiche is known as a popular tart based out of France. However, it originated in a former German medieval kingdom known as Lothringen, now known as Lorraine in France. The word quiche comes from the German word Kuchen, meaning cake. However, it's not really a cake, is it? This is probably because way back, the dough used to be more like a bread dough rather than a pie crust. Now you can try the vegan version of quiche, which is free of cholesterol and filled with deliciousness. Now it's time to slice up our leeks. This is a perfect recipe to use your wilted herbs, so I have some wilted parsley that I chopped up and it's a handful, and I have 2 packed cups of baby spinach. I have a sprig of sage here. I'm just going to remove the leaves. And I have 1 shallot I'm slicing up. I changed our oven temperature to 375 and I'm mincing up 2 elephant cloves of garlic. I'm just slicing up 6 sun-dried tomatoes. I removed most of the oil. I'm setting our stovetop to medium, getting our pan hot, adding some earth balance to our pan. I'm I'm adding about 1.5 cups of our sliced leeks. And I'm adding in our shallots. Adding in our garlic. And we'll add our 2 cups of spinach. Don't worry that it's overflowing in the pan, it will shrink. And we're popping in our sun-dried tomatoes and our sage. If you don't want the whole leaves, you can also chop them up. I'm adding in our parsley. Now we have a mixture with some beautiful flavors here. Leeks are rich in flavonoids, which are anti-inflammatory and contain cancer-fighting properties. If you're new to leeks, be sure to wash them very carefully. You may want to cut them open, split up the layers, pop them in a bowl full of water, scrub them. I like to scrub between each layer because you will be surprised how much grit is in between each layer. While the dark green parts of the leaves are not commonly eaten, they still can be used. After they're washed, of course, you can pop them in your freezer bag for your soup stock for later on. You can also dry them off after they're washed, dehydrate them, and either turn them into a powder, which is great for sauces, dips, or just to add that boost of flavor to any dish that you're making. Or you can just dehydrate them separately and you'll have little leek chips for a healthy snack. Another idea is that you can lay down the leaves if you make a seitan roast, and that will infuse a nice flavor there as well. There's also leek oil, believe it or not. I haven't seen it around here, but maybe at one of those fancy shops like Pusatari's or something. Another little idea is that you can trim one part of the leaf and use it as a tie to tie up your bouquet de garni for your soup stock or other soups in general. And I'm going to be using our Violife vegan Feta style block. I'm just going to use 2 slices, and I'll cut those slices in half and then create some cubes. And this should be a sufficient amount. I'm going to use 1 entire bottle of our Just egg, so I'll pop our veggie mixture in this bowl. I'm going to add some kala namak, some black salt, just a couple of pinches worth. This is an optional addition for that boost of eggy flavor. I'm also adding some freshly ground black pepper and a little bit of Himalayan pink salt. I'm adding a half a teaspoon of our Harissa spice blend plus a pinch, and I'm pouring in our Just egg and we're going to mix it evenly. Adding in our vegan feta to the mix. Now we'll just pour our mixture into our pie crust. I'm just brushing the edges of our pie crust with our almond milk. This is optional. Now I'm popping our vegan quiche into the oven, and it will be in the oven for 40 minutes. You want to make sure everything's browned and set nicely. Now our quiche is ready to go. And it's plating time. It's that time again, everyone. I get to try our delicious vegan leek and baby spinach quiche with the sun-dried tomatoes, of course, and all the other deliciousness. So let's dig in. Perfecto. It turned out amazing. I'm quite satisfied with all the flavors. It is super delicious. You can prepare this for your next vegan brunch gathering. I love that pop of sun-dried tomatoes in there. The great thing is, if you make it for breakfast one day, you'll have some more for lunch the next day, as long as you're not a hazard. But I wouldn't blame you. So remember, if you like this video in any way, shape, or form, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to my channel, hit the little bell notification icon so you don't miss a single video. We're traveling the globe in my kitchen, keeping things interesting in my kitchen and in yours. There's gonna be a new video Monday at 8 a.m. Eastern, so stay tuned for all the great recipes coming your way. Bon appetit.